This session is intentional storytelling, big, bold steps toward more relevant and relatable presentations. It will be presented by two speakers, Debby Kerr-Henry, I should say distinguished Toastmaster, Debby Kerr-Henry, and distinguished Toastmaster James Robinson. Debby Kerr and James Robinson are joining forces to promote their big, bold voices to empower others to speak their stories. With Debby Kerr's background in writing creative nonfiction and James' experience in presenting through parables, they aim to deliver an engaging and educational session with key takeaways. Debby Kerr and James.
Let's hear it for those Washington Commanders! Anybody? Oh, we have one person back there. Yes! Woohoo! Washington Commanders. Okay, the rest of you are not for the Washington Commanders.
Did they used to be Redskins?
Redskins!
Yeah, they used to be the Redskins.
Still are the Redskins.
Okay, fellow Toastmasters, to help you understand why I started there with the Commanders, I need to give you a bit of a backstory. When I was in my mid-20s, I worked for a publishing company in Dallas, Texas, in the education department. And a big part of my responsibility was to travel around the United States and help our sales reps put on workshops for their audience or for their customers. Their customers were high school yearbook students and high school yearbook teachers. I was in my 20s, fresh out of college. I was scared to death of public speaking. I was having to learn on the job how to get in front of people and talk. And one of the things that I had just learned was that I needed to connect with my audience. And so my company flew me up to Seattle, Washington, and I was thinking, okay, I need to connect with all of you. And I just heard that week that the Washington, back then the Redskins, had just won a big game. Now, you know where I might be heading with this. Washington Commanders are not from Washington State. They are from Washington, D.C. I go to Washington State, and the sales rep introduces me. I get on the stage, and I go, "What about those Washington Commanders? Woo!" Like I did this morning. Yes, I did. And I got silence and blank stares. Now I was astute enough to know that, okay, something just happened. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to continue on as if nothing had happened. I'm going to stop my story there. I'm going to circle back around to at the end of my session. But I want to leave you with this question. Now, if you look at your handouts, you can write this question down at the bottom where it says Debbie's Big Bold Conclusion. There's a Q there for question. Feel free to write it there. This is the question. How does a presenter recover when she fumbles her opening? I might add terribly. How does a presenter recover when she fumbles her opening? So keep that question in the back of your mind. We'll come back to it. But at this time, we're going to switch to a different story. And I'm going to introduce my co-presenter, someone who knows a heck of a lot more about football than I do. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster James Robinson.
I don't know when you entered the room, did you get the memo? Did you have to smile before you come in the room? All right. There was a song, a children's song written in the 1920s by a man named Harry Dixon Lewis. This song became an anthem for the civil rights movement during the 50s and the 60s. Freedom singing. Freedom singing, they use hymns as a form of resistance during social protest. That song that he wrote was entitled, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." How many of you know that song? How many of you can sing that song? Look, we're going to sing just the chorus 3 times. 3 times, all right? Everybody, make sure you sing loud enough or you can't hear my voice. So 3 times, come on 3. 1, 2, 3, come on. This little light of mine. Come on now. I'm gonna let it shine. One more time, come on. This little light of mine. What you gonna do? I'm gonna let it shine. All right, one more time, man. Come on. This little light of mine. All right, now, come on. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I learned some years ago about singing. When I developed and discovered my gift, one of my friends played a trick on me. We went to a prayer meeting one night. He knew I couldn't sing, so he had everyone to join in on a prank on me. So everyone was singing out loud and everything. I got in, I felt good. I was singing so much, singing so loud. All of a sudden, everybody stopped singing. You talking about embarrassment, you just bust out laughing. But you sound good. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Robinson. I was born among 5 sisters and 4 brothers, and I'm in the middle. Growing up wasn't so easy. My mother often told me, "James, find your gift and let your light shine. Let your light shine." So as I was growing up, I kept that in the back of my mind. So I pursued my gift, trying to find what my gift is. After all, among brothers, 5 sisters, growing up, it wasn't so easy. So I pursued trying to find that gift. I went to public school. Sooner or later, I discovered I can play football. I can play football. So I pursued my career as a football player, all through high school. Matter of fact, I received a scholarship for playing football at Fort Valley State College. I don't hear no amen. Fort Valley State College in Fort Valley, Georgia. Then, watch yourself, man. So, as I began, now I realized I was happy and excited. I received a scholarship. This is the gift my mother was telling me about growing up. James, find your gift. Let your light shine. Now, when I received a scholarship, I said, now I'm in a place where I can let my light shine. All right. But sooner than later, I discovered football wasn't my gift. The guy was bigger, stronger, faster, and that I failed to mention, they hit a lot harder. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocker was, I discovered I didn't even receive the scholarship that I was promised. Why? The paperwork wasn't even submitted for my scholarship. Heartbroken. But I always remember what my mother told me. Find the gift. So I had to quit college and I joined the United States Army. Joined the Army. Hoping that I can find my gift there. I finished my tour in the United States Army. Don't get me wrong, I was proud to serve my country. But I didn't find my gift there either. Years later, in search of my gift, I got a phone call. James, can you come preach at church? And I'm like, preach? But remember, I'm still searching for that gift. I know. I said, yes, I'll do it. I began to speak at a church function. And there, ladies and gentlemen, I found what my gift was. The gift of gab. And ever since, my light been shining brighter and brighter. It's a shame for us to live in this day and time, going through life's ups and downs, and not discovering what your gift really is in life. To walk up on stage, do your best, everybody give you standing ovation, but something deep down inside you know you was meant for more than this. Inside each and every one of us is placed a special gift. You were brought to this planet carrying something that each one of us needs. And if you leave off this planet without sharing it for the lost, we have lost so much in this life. Ladies and gentlemen, later I want to share with you how through life I fumbled, like Debby said, I fumbled so much. But when I discovered my gift, it did something for me. So at this time, I'm going to leave off with that. And we're going to come back around and I'm going to share with you 3 gifts that help me succeed. And I hope that it will make you succeed even more in finding your gift. I'm going to turn it back over.
The title of this session is Intentional Storytelling. Big, bold steps towards more relevant and relatable presentations. So let's start with that title and that word intentional. I hear a lot now that stories, we need to share our stories, we need to put our stories out there, but how do we know what stories to use? And that's why this session is called Intentional Storytelling. On your handout, I included a little word above the I. What's that word? Deliberate. So whatever stories you use in your presentations, you need to be deliberate about it. They need to have a purpose, and you need to have intention. We're going to talk about 3 good reasons. This morning there are a lot of good reasons, but we're going to focus on 3 reasons why you should share your stories in your presentations and 3 reasons why you shouldn't. So let's start with the reasons why you should. The first one is number 1, you can write this down, connect. Stories help us to connect with our audience. And I already touched on that with my opening story, how not to connect with your audience. I learned 2 things from that experience. I learned number 1, that you should always fact check your information. You should know that the Washington Commanders are from DC, not Washington State. Fact check. It's easy to fact check today. Back then it wasn't so much, but that's not an excuse. And number 2, I also learned that to connect with my audience, I need to be genuine in that connection. I didn't care about football. I was trying to connect. I did put out an honest effort, but I wasn't genuine in that effort because football wasn't a connection for me. Does anybody remember who my audience was when I told my story? Anybody remember? High school yearbook students and teachers. You guys are good listeners. I love it. And it's still early. So anybody have any thoughts about a story I could have used to open with that would have connected better with my audience? Any thoughts back there? Yeah.
Possibly about your experience in high school and all the activities you participated in and how much fun it was to be seen in the yearbook. And that could be used as a connection with your classmates and how it impacted you.
Yes, excellent. And the ironic thing about that is that I was on the yearbook staff in high school. Let the good times roll, 1983. Yes. And also, I was on my college yearbook staff for 5 years. I was the editor-in-chief my last year. It was a nationally ranked college publication and still is. A lot to be said. Why did I use that story? The point is, know your audience and genuinely connect with your audience. Thank you. You guys know what to do. So number one, connect. Stories can help us connect with our audience. The second thing stories can do is help us empower our audience. And I'm going to hand this one off to James, because when James speaks, that's typically what he does, is he delivers empowerment presentations. So James, back up here on the podium.
When you're empowering someone, the story was told once of a man. He had on a suit, tie, but he was bending down, reaching down to grab someone, a bum. And the story goes, the only time you look down on a brother or a sister is when you're trying to what? Pick them up. Family, this morning, that's what we must do as Toastmasters. Go out, look for those who are down, and learn how to pick them up. Not that you're better than them, but you want to give them the confidence and the strength to stand before an awesome audience like this. That's when we empower each other. Matter of fact, with two people, give me something, or tell someone something that you can empower someone with. Anybody, right quick, how would you empower someone who is down on their luck? Matter of fact, how would you empower someone in this room? Even though we're dressed up on the outside, but we're going through something in the inside. There you go.
We're either winning or learning.
Whoa, winning and learning.
Let's do a hug.
All right. Somebody else, go ahead. How?
Listen to their story.
Listening to those stories. But 10 years prior to COVID, I was asked, matter of fact, I was a volunteer chaplain. And that was one of the qualities that I learned. Sometimes you don't have the gifts of gab, you want to talk and run your mouth all the time. But I learned to listen. Going in some of the patients' room, I've learned to listen. Listen to their story. Somebody go into the room, they told me they don't want to see a chaplain. I go outside, I pray. Before I leave, operator called Chaplain Robinson, can you go to such and such room? When I went back, they told me, I have something to say. I took a seat, and I've learned to listen. That's how we empower each other. Listening, we can help strengthen each other. And at this time, before I continue with the gift of gab, I'm going to turn it back over to Debby.
Okay, number three, we talked about connect, empower. Number three is stories can help us educate our audience. It can help our audience understand what we're trying to teach them. Does anybody give presentations that are more along teaching and education? Anybody? Okay, a lot of you in this room. So stories are a great way to help your audience understand your point, as opposed to just telling them information. You can show them that information through storytelling. Yeah, and I'm going to tell just a very short story. I hope I have enough time to just prove this point. Last week I was at a workshop here in Volusia County for Volusia Recovery Alliance. It was a workshop for people in recovery and family of loved ones in recovery, and they were teaching something called WRAP. It's an acronym, WRAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan. The facilitator had been in recovery for, I think, like 20 years, and it was critically important that he taught everybody in this workshop why you should have a wellness plan, not just why, but why it's important to have one throughout your recovery. I happen to be a loved one of someone in recovery. Everybody else in that room was at varying stages of recovery. And so he needed all of us to get on board with putting this wellness plan in place. And he talked about that he had this spot on his shoulder that he told his dermatologist about. His doctor said, I don't think it's anything, but we'll send it to the lab. It came back, it was cancer. It was a rare form of cancer. But his dermatologist said typically about 5%, 95% of the people get through this, no worries. He wasn't worried, he went to work. Work helped him keep his mind off of things. But, so then he had surgery, had it removed. Doctor came back, he said, unfortunately, we didn't get all of it. So he had to go through his second surgery. Still, the doctor was reassuring him everything is okay. He went back to work to keep his mind off of everything. Everything was fine. Doctor came back after the second surgery and said, I'm sorry, we have to do a third surgery. At this point, he's stopping. And he's thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to be in that 5%. And things shift in his body. He has his wellness plan in place, which is critically important to helping him stay on track with his recovery. And he says, he pulls it out, and he's already listed things that he needs to do to take care of himself when he feels himself sliding into this place of anxiety. And he realized, I cannot go back to work this time and keep my mind off of this. I need to take care of myself. I'm going to take a couple days off, I'm going to lay low, and I'm going to do the things that I have worked out already on my plan. He'd been in recovery for like 20 years. His point was, he didn't tell us, this is important for all of you. He showed us through a story. So number 3 is educate. If you're needing to educate your audience, choose stories to do that. Show, don't tell. Okay, let's transition now into 3 reasons why you would not want to use stories in your presentation. The first one is ego. You do not want to use stories to stroke your own ego, and I will tell a quick story to demonstrate this. There is a presenter and writer out of Jacksonville whom I really like. He has a great podcast. He brings in a lot of people who are empowering. And so I pick up some of these podcasts, and he had a guest on his podcast one time who is a marathon runner. And I kind of go in and out of running. My sons were in cross country. I love the sport of running, not so much football, but I love sports, And so I was interested in this speaker because he had been running marathons for every day for 100 days, something crazy like that. I'm like, why? I don't even understand that, So I was looking forward to hearing his story, listening to the podcast. They're typically excellent, but he kept talking about himself. This is what I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm wondering why? Why are you doing that? He finally brings up the fact that he is raising money for a cause. I don't remember what it was because he didn't talk about that cause. So number 1 reason for not using stories is to stroke your ego. Stories are not meant for that. Stories are meant to connect with your audience and empower them, educate them, help them, not yourself. Okay, the number two on your list is exploit. You never want to use a story that might potentially exploit yourself or somebody else. Do we have anybody who works in nonprofit organizations? Anybody? Toastmasters is a nonprofit organization, so technically we're all in that field, but there's a lot of people actually work in nonprofit too, and I actually was at a workshop about a year and a half ago in Nashville at a nonprofit organization, and they brought this point up, and it's an excellent point. They talked about what's called ethical storytelling. And I put a website on your worksheet. It's actually by number 3. It should be by number 2. So if you go to ethicalstorytelling.com, you can learn a lot more about this. I'm not going to spend any time on it, but it's the point of it is this: if you're especially in nonprofit work, they use stories to help raise money, right? And so what they have discovered in the past is sometimes they're not always using those stories to the best interest of the very people they're trying to help. Ethical storytelling, okay? So you never want to use a story that may have a potential to exploit anybody. And you can get more information about that at that website. And then the third reason actually ties into this last one, timing. So maybe you want to use some of your stories in your presentations, and maybe your story is a difficult story. I shared one earlier about people in recovery. Those stories are really difficult. And here in Volusia County, I'm hoping that Toastmasters can start helping people in recovery start telling their stories, because one of their goals is to overcome stigma in the area of recovery. And Toastmasters can help in this area, help people find their voices and tell their stories. But the timing needs to be right. So sometimes you're working through some hard stuff, and yeah, there's a lot of benefits to sharing your story because it can help others, but you might need to work through some of that before you start presenting it. Or you might need to work through pieces of it and maybe just share a part of your story, and the more you become more comfortable and confident in it, you can share more of it. So always consider the timing of it. You might want to process some of your story like with a coach or a counselor and work through pieces and parts of it first before you actually get up here on a podium and speak it. Because you don't want to, you want to keep speaking it, and you don't want to get up and speak it and it's too early and you never want to say anything more about it, right? So timing is number 3. Okay, so let's circle back around now to the conclusions to James's story and my story, and then we want to get all of you involved in this storytelling. So let's talk about our conclusions. James, why don't you share in just a couple minutes your 3, well, in a few minutes, your 3 points, and then I will conclude our stories with the answer to my question that I gave earlier. So I'm going to hand the ball off to you.
All right. Notice what Debby said a few minutes, because you know I'm going to run my mouth. Simply what she said, make it short. Sometimes finding our gifts can be frustrating, discouraging. Sometimes I even wanted to quit and give up. But I want to share 3 things with you that helped me discover my gift. Not only discover and let my light shine, that will help you, I hope, let your light shine. Number 1, find a gift that you're compassionate about. Something you're compassionate about, something that gives you a joy. Once you start talking, once you start moving, operating your gift, you're excited about it. Can't you tell I'm excited about talking? Yeah. All right. That's my passion and stuff. Number two, write this down. Number 2, your gifts will make room for you. What do you mean by that? Your gift, once you discover your gift and your talent, your gift will take you somewhere that you never imagined. Many of us aim too low and hit it all the time. Once I began to raise my standards, my gift made me more valuable. It stood me in front of an audience like you here. That's what your gift will make room for you. Number 3, write this down. Become a person of value. Critique your gifts. Get feedback on your gift. Once you get feedback on your gift, you can start to develop yourself more and more. And your gift will make room for you. You'll become more valuable. Let me say it this way. Once you discover your gift and you become so good at it, you can build your house in the woods, and the world will make a beaten path just to find you for your gift. Because the world is seeking what you have. You didn't come on this planet. People didn't come to see you. They come to see what you're carrying, your gift to serve to the world. So I leave you with this here. Discover your gift, discover your talent, and serve it to the world. Back to you, Debby.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to the question I posed earlier, but before I do that, I wanted to point out this handout that you all have too, and this is from that ethical storytelling website. And so it talks about their pledge in helping you deliver ethical stories, so that is helpful for you. So who can tell me the question that I left you with earlier? Did anybody write it down? What's the question? Somebody just... That's right. How does a presenter recover after she fumbles her opening? Well, I can tell you, back then, my 20s, I did not recover. I lost all credibility because I did not fact check. But I will tell you this, I recovered long term, and this is why. I learned from that experience, and I got back in the game. And I kept practicing, joined Toastmasters, and I'm here now in front of all of you, still presenting, and I'm almost 60 now. So maybe you don't recover initially, but my message to you is don't quit, stay in the game. Keep practicing, polishing, and speaking your voice, because it does matter. Speaking of voices, we want to hear your voices now. On the back of your handout, James and I have given you some story prompts, and because we're having to rush through time here, we're going to do a little tabletop based. I was hoping we'd have a little time to get you to think through some things. But I want you to just go through those prompts quickly and just think about the first thing that pops into your mind. But don't think about it too much. Usually the first things that come to your mind, there's a lot of value in that. So think about the first thing that pops to your mind in any of those story prompts. And I want you to come up here and share some of your stories, but I also want you to do this. Think about how that story can help one of your presentations. Remember the 3 points we started with? The intentional point of connecting. How can your story help connect you to your audience? Or how can your story help empower your audience? Or maybe your story will help educate your audience. So think about what is the intention of that story. And we're going to do this tabletop style. We're all Toastmasters, so we're going to do this quickly. Do we have any volunteers? Does anybody have a story that they will come up here and share with the rest of us? We have a room full. Okay, right here. I'm bring the mic up. Yeah, you guys are not going to sit there and not see. Okay, tell us your name, and you have Marie. Can you do the time? Make sure he doesn't go past 2 minutes. Okay. So I'll just hand the mic to you. Just tell us your name. Tell us what club you're with, how long you've been a Toastmaster, and then share your story and how you think you can use that in a presentation.
Well, thank you for the introduction. My name is Chris Engel. I am from Ponte Vedra Toastmasters in Ponte Vedra Beach, which is near Jacksonville. How many Jacksonville people do we have here? My heart's pounding. I hope this is the same for everyone. Imagining me standing up here. I joined Toastmasters in September of 2019, and it actually relates to the story I was going to tell. I kept thinking about the idea that you have to tell a story that matters. I worked on Wall Street for 20 years on the institutional sales and trading desk, meeting with some of the top institutional investors on the planet, huge trillion-dollar companies. And when I'd go into these companies and I'd have to introduce one of my top research analysts, I think about it for days, just getting up and having to say, this is my colleague and this is his background, and I'd panic and I'd be all nervous about it. This isn't the way to live. And then I started to have this dream. I'm on the bottom of the ocean floor, silty sandy bottom, about 30 feet of clear water over my head, and the sunlight is just warbling through it. Very quiet, and I'm walking forward, and there's darkness in front of me. There's an abyss, darkness going straight down and out in front of me. And the first time I had that dream, I was terrified. Imagine being underwater, that feeling like you can't breathe, just panicking. And I had that dream over and over and over again. And each time, that pulsing, scary feeling was there. But each time it became less, until it flipped. And it wasn't scary anymore, it was beckoning me into it. And the last time I had that dream, I walked into my boss's office the next morning, and I said, I can't do this anymore. He said, you might be the highest paid person in this entire office. Have you lost your mind? I said, probably. And it was because of the word that I finally understood inside that dream. It was one word that went from a whisper to a shout. Shout. And I still don't know what my mission is, but since that point, I've had the benefit of meeting some incredible people. Helped to start a charter school in Jacksonville where we have almost 1,000 students. And I didn't do this myself. It was a partnership, and we all have gifts and we all have failings. But somehow, a bunch of people who don't know how to run a school have created a charter school in Jacksonville that won an A in its first year, and will continue to grow from that challenge. The second thing I saw was the pain of watching 700 students stand on the waiting list saying, I would want to be in that school. And so we had an idea, and that was to create an alternative education platform. In our first year, we had a really mediocre website. We had 1,000 parents sign up all over the world. We had 300 people engaged. This year we're endeavoring to do 3 times as many, and maybe we'll get to 10 times as many, to tell people that there are alternative ways to educate their children. And then I decided that I needed to push myself further, so I invested in the Central American Special Economic Zone. I realized there are more things that I can do with my life. But ultimately, that the second half of life, and I've decided I'm going to devote it to making the world a little bit better with the gifts that I have been given, whatever they are, every single day.
Give it up for Chris. What about that story, Chris, is, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, okay. We're videotaping, that's why we're trying to have the microphones for everybody. What I love about that story is it's another example about how you can use your voice to get out there and speak into the world for a greater cause. And that's what I see Toastmasters is about. The more we learn how to speak and go out there and speak for causes that makes our world a better place, that's, to me, what Toastmasters is about. Okay, do we have anybody else who would like to come up and share a story? Okay, we have one right here. Come on up. Okay, so we need your name, your club, how long you've been a Toastmaster, share your story. We have a timer right here. And tell us why, the intent behind your story, okay?
And the way it's teaching that it's a suggestion. That's for Toastmasters. And I'm Phyllis Fuller. I belong to the
You can
Winter
hold that.
Haven
Yeah.
Toastmaster Club. I don't know, Toastmasters since 2004, if you want to know how many years, do the arithmetic. But I have just a suggestion. When I was first learning to speak, and they said, have a topic. Oh my gosh, what topic can I talk about? Where can I find a suggestion? You have material every time you step into a new room.
Yes.
And this is an experience of mine, and I believe it happened here in this hotel. In my room, there is an extra roll of toilet paper. Read the label. It says professional. Now, what would that mean? Do you have to be a professional person to use that toilet paper? Is it only a specific kind that's better than something else? And when do you need to use it? What can you do? And I made a speech out of that to present to my Toastmaster club. And it was a 5 to 7 minute speech. You have material wherever you go. Just keep on working
I so agree with that. I'm a writer, and I have people ask me that question a lot, like, where do you find your stories? And I'm like, they're everywhere. That was a perfect example.
Wherever you go.
That's right.
Ding ding.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask real quick, do we have any first timers in here? Raise your hand if you are first timers. We love our first timers. I'm going to ask, are any of our first timers brave enough to come up here? Come on. Okay, figure out the instructions?
I did.
Okay, awesome.
I'm Lola from Plant City. I joined Toastmasters 2 days ago. That's a good story right there.
Right? Okay, what time is it now?
It
says,
10:12.
10:12. Okay, we unfortunately need to wrap up. We're supposed to be done by 10:15. So, I would like to just say this to wrap up our session. Let's go back to the title of the session, Intentional Storytelling. What is it? Big, bold steps for more.
Relatable presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Notice that James and I never gave you any big, bold steps, and that's in our title. Well, those big, bold steps, fellow Toastmasters, are for you to take. From my story, when you fumble, get back in the game and stay in the game. And James, can you tell us why that might be important?
Yes. Fellow Toastmasters, I fumbled, and I fumbled a lot. I remember we was playing a game in Key West, Florida, we was winning. The last handoff was to me. I was going towards the goal to make a touchdown. I got blindsided, I got hit, and I got hit hard too. And I fumbled the ball. It cost us the game. It cost us the game. So all the way from Key West back home down here to DeLand, Florida, guess what? I had to think about all these things. Then I began to hear about a lot of stuff. You should have held the ball closer to you. Not only that, it came film day. We had to watch the film of the game. He played the film over about 100 times. And I was just sitting there. But I started to learn by fumbling, I can get back in the game. I can get back in the game and learn from it. So fellow Toastmasters, as we go through this challenge, this life, let us learn to fumble. Let us learn to be embarrassed. Let us learn to fumble, but always remember, I can get back in the game. Get back in the game, and when you get back in the game, you'll stand up here and make big, bold steps in your life. And that's what we are now. That's what we're doing as Toastmasters. Learn, let others see. You can fumble, and get back in the game.
Yeah, James. Let's not forget, when we do that, what happens? Our light shines brighter and brighter and brighter. This little light of mine. Come on.
I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Come on.
I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Have a great weekend.
Another round of applause for our speakers. I want to hear the bold steps that Lola took after joining Toastmasters for 2 days and is here as a first timer.
All right.
There's a huge story right there. There are QR codes that are circulating in all of the educational sessions. Please ensure that you scan that QR code and fill out the evaluation form. It's the only way Toastmasters can improve the educational workshops we offer at these conferences. I would like to present on behalf of my other facilitator, Marie, this certificate of appreciation to our 2 speakers. And I just got a picture.